NLP, a pseudoscience masquerading as psychology. Neuro-Linguistic Programming, NLP, has long been marketed as a science-backed methodology for personal transformation, communication enhancement, and behavioral change. Its proponents claim that NLP is rooted in psychology and neuroscience, often citing decades of research as evidence. However, a closer examination reveals that NLP is a pseudoscience with no legitimate foundation in psychology or neuroscience. The techniques of NLP are not validated by empirical studies, and its strongest defenders are those financially or ideologically invested in its framework. Despite its widespread use in coaching, business, and self-help, NLP remains unregulated, unproven, and ultimately an illusion of legitimacy propped up by marketing rather than science. No scientific basis. What the experts say leading psychologists and neuroscientists have repeatedly debunked NLP's claims. According to Professor Stephen Novella, a clinical neurologist at Yale University, NLP is a collection of unproven techniques that borrow jargon from psychology and neuroscience but have no scientific validity. Novella, 2012. NLP's fundamental premise that language and thought patterns can be reprogrammed to produce consistent, measurable behavioral changes has never been demonstrated in controlled studies. Dr. Tomasz Witkowski, a psychologist and science writer who conducted a comprehensive review of NLP research, concluded, "The literature does not support the effectiveness of NLP. Its assumptions about human cognition are simplistic and outdated." Witkowski, 2010. A systematic review published in the British Journal of General Practice found no evidence to support the claims made by NLP practitioners, highlighting that it lacks any credibility as a therapeutic or coaching tool. Heap, 2008. More recent analyses have reaffirmed that NLP has not gained any new scientific credibility. The fact that researchers have largely abandoned NLP is not evidence of suppression or bias, but rather a reflection of its lack of promising results. If NLP had shown even a fraction of the effectiveness its proponents claim, we would see ongoing independent research and scientific recognition. But we do not. Debunked core claims. One of NLP's most famous techniques, the idea that eye movements indicate truthfulness or deception, has been thoroughly debunked. A study led by Professor Richard Wiseman and colleagues concluded, there is no evidence that eye movement patterns are related to lying. NLP's claim in this regard is false, Wiseman et al., 2012. Despite such clear disconfirmation, NLP trainers continue to teach this technique as though it were fact. Anecdotes are not science. NLP proponents frequently rely on testimonials and personal success stories instead of rigorous scientific validation. They argue that NLP works because individuals claim they have experienced transformation. However, as Dr. Scott Lilienfeld, a clinical psychologist and expert on pseudoscience, points out, anecdotes are not evidence. They do not establish cause and effect, and they are subject to bias, placebo effects, and self-deception. Lilienfeld, 2005. If NLP were a genuine science, its techniques would be tested in controlled experiments and replicated by independent researchers. Instead, the evidence overwhelmingly suggests that NLP's effects are no greater than a placebo. Witkowski, 2010. The absence of peer-reviewed validation is a hallmark of pseudoscience, and NLP is no exception. Inflating conflict. How NLP pretends to be a science, a key strategy used by NLP advocates, is inflation of conflict, where they falsely present the scientific status of NLP as controversial or unresolved. Instead of addressing why NLP lacks empirical support, they dismiss critics as closed-minded, unready to take control of their lives, or simply not understanding NLP. This tactic shifts attention away from the real issue, the lack of scientific validity, and places the burden on skeptics to prove NLP doesn't work, rather than on NLP practitioners to prove it does. Another common tactic is appeal to authority, particularly through the use of titles and academic-sounding language. Richard Bandler, NLP's co-founder, is often referred to as Dr. Bandler, despite having obtained his doctorate from an unaccredited institution. NLP also appropriates scientific-sounding terms like meta, reprogramming, and neuro to create the illusion of legitimacy, despite its creators having no formal training in psychology or neuroscience. An unregulated industry, With no standards, NLP operates in a completely unregulated space where anyone can claim to be an NLP practitioner, coach, or trainer. Unlike psychology, where ethical standards and accreditation processes exist, NLP has no governing body ensuring consistency, accountability, or quality control. Training courses often offer certifications with no meaningful criteria other than attendance and payment. Moreover, NLP's evolution into neurosemantics, a supposed refinement of its techniques, does nothing to address its fundamental lack of scientific credibility. Instead, it serves as a rebranding strategy to keep the illusion alive and market NLP to a new audience under a different name. NLP is a pseudoscience, not a psychology despite its widespread popularity in self-help and coaching circles. NLP has never been scientifically validated. The only people defending it are those who stand to benefit from its continued promotion. Its core claims have been debunked, its methods lack empirical support, and its success stories are nothing more than anecdotal evidence wrapped in persuasive marketing. The scientific consensus is clear. NLP is a pseudoscience that preys on those seeking personal growth while offering no real psychological foundation. The burden of proof lies with NLP practitioners, not skeptics. Until its techniques withstand rigorous, independent scientific testing, NLP remains nothing more than a well-branded illusion.